Greetings, Moonlight citizens. This is your man on the moon here, the Moonlight King, here with episode 54 of Moonlight Kingdom Podcast in 3, 2, 1.
Man on the moon, just for TikTok purposes, can I get your age, please? Not that I haven't heard it like 30 times.
25, yeah.
What can I help you with?
Well, I do have one particular thing in regards to it's not hate. I mean, I misread that. In terms of a problem, it's the one thing. It's not the same one thing I bring up in other lives. It's another thing. It's the fact that the community, as it is and as it's been in its various forms over the decades, can't seem to agree on how it wants to be perceived of all the things that could bother me about
community as a whole, or are you talking about like a specific letter?
I'd say, well, there have been examples, but let's focus on the L and the G. Like, we can try to get into the rest of that if this time, like the L and the G. Back in like the 80s, there was this film by hi Kronk. There was this film by William Friedkin. It's called Cruising. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's like Al Pacino plays this undercover cop, and he has to find out who's flatlining.
I'm so bad with names. Hold on.
Oh, wait.
I'll recognize the. No, I've never seen that.
Okay.
I was looking at the box art for it to see if I recognized it.
I was doing research on it because I reviewed it for my channel, and it turns out that when this movie was being made, so the premise of the film is someone is flatlining members of the gay community. Wait, can I say that? Or is that like TikTok safe? Or do I have to spell it out?
I would say unaliving.
I'll just no. Can I say gay on here, or because on other lives people are like,
it seems to be super hit or miss. Some people are allowing it on their lives, some people aren't. Just go with it. It's fine.
Okay, so members of the gay community were being flatlined, and they tasked Al Pacino to go undercover as a gay man and try to find out who's doing this. It sounds hokey, but like that was the premise. Doesn't sound like it would be problematic or anything, but apparently members of the gay community weren't too happy with with the mere existence of the movie. They tried to shut it down. They harassed people on set. However, there were other members of the yeah.
So what I would take away from that, and I haven't seen it, is older movies that portrayed gay or lesbian individuals, or even transgender individuals. Like you can use anything and everything there. They use them as the butt of a joke. So the concept of going under into the queer community to catch I'm assuming serial unaliver, not a bad concept. But the way it was portrayed, I'm assuming, not seeing the movie, that they went with every stigma under the sun for gay men and made them the butt of all the jokes in the movie. So that, I'm assuming, is where the lashback comes from.
Well,
backlash, not lashback. Excuse my dyslexia.
Well, yeah, that's primarily what one would expect of a movie made at this time that had to approach the subject matter of even something as small as having one gay character. It would be this thing of like, oh, you're the gay guy in the movie. You're definitely here. If they couldn't get a dramatic story out of you, you were the joke. Like, you were the butt of a joke. It happened a lot back then. Right. So, yeah. In terms of, like, community not agreeing on how it wants to be perceived, the thing I bring up is, yes, while there were people who wanted to shut the movie down and didn't think it spoke really well of the gay community, there were large numbers of people within the community who were like, no, this is a good thing. You know, it's shining a light on the community itself, and it's showing people like, hey, we're regular people out here. You know, we're not like aliens walking amongst you. We do, you know, exist in the world. It's a representation of sorts. So yeah.
It's kind of like a double-edged sword would be the way that I would look at it. I can understand both sides of it. And I kind of correlate what you're saying to there's no such thing as bad press because all press is is not representation. That's not the word I'm looking for.
Bad press is better than no press. I think that's what she's trying to get across. Back to it.
Like even somebody getting bad press, they're still getting out there.
Yeah.
So while it is showing that LGBTQIA members exist, specifically gay men in this, for what you're talking about, exists, it's also, for the other side, it's also putting harsh stereotypes that they're this, or they're this, or they're this, or they're this, which, for the longest time, if you had any level of like an effeminate trait, oh, you're probably a gay man. But we know that gay men can be effeminate. They can be extremely flamboyant. They can also be more quote unquote masculine or manly than any straight guy I've ever met. It goes both ways. Yes, there is a stereotype. Some stereotypes do exist for a reason. I personally don't think all stereotypes are harmful, but it depends on the context behind it.
Yeah. It's true. Not all stereotypes are harmful. I mean, they've been. It's kind of hokey. I'm not trying to undermine what you've said. I'm just saying,
what the heck is that?
Ooh.
Thank you for the nice start. No, at the end of the day, if we look back through history and the movies, I would say there's, especially if you look at movies from 70s, 80s, 90s, even 2000s, like early 2000s, the portrayal of people from this community was more negative than positive. Yeah, sure, it was representation, but there wasn't a lot of good representation.
Yeah, same with...
and that's my personal opinion on it.
Yeah, it happens to a lot of communities with your black, LGBT, evil, neurodivergent.
I agree with that.
I bring up because
I would go so far to make this statement that if it came to media and you were a minority being put in the movie, you were probably the brunt of a joke or worse.
Yeah, if you weren't a straight white male, like for the longest time, if you weren't a straight white male, you were gonna be like, there was gonna be a joke at your expense in there somewhere. Or worse, they would try to get like some like Oscar bait drama out of you in some way, whether it be all those movies about autism like I Am Sam, or I don't know, something like The Blind Side or something like that. But yeah, going back to the topic about community not being able to agree on how we should be perceived, like in terms of like the L side of things, I'll see heaps of praise being sent towards a show like The L Word or The L Word Generation Q and Orange is the New Black, but at the same time, I'll see people watch a movie like Blue is the Warmest Color or Below Her Mouth, and they'll be like, well, what the heck is this? This isn't representing
Has
us.
anyone ever told you your movie library is rather extensive?
No, actually. I mean, the most I get from people is like, wait, you've seen that movie? I'll be like, yeah, I've seen that. I was like, wow, that's so awesome, and that'll be it. But yeah, thank you. I watch a lot.
No. So the problem I have, and I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying, but I don't have any numbers or like statistics on that. That's just like people that come on the panel and say, well, the majority of the LGB are tired of the T, so that's why it's being removed. There's actually statistics out there for that show that it's not a majority. It's roughly between 8 and 15% that think that the T or the Q or the I or the A are a detriment to the LGB. But I will make the same argumentation that there was a point in time that the L and the G were trying to remove the B too. So I will say I guess my argumentation to this entire thing would be, I mean, you can look in almost any community for that. There's individuals in the Black community that will say it's okay for anyone to say the N-word. It's just a word. I highly disagree with that, and I doubt that's a majority. I mean, I really don't get to disagree with that. If the Black community or the BIPOC community, however you want to word it, wants to say, fine, we just don't care anymore, that's on you. That's not for anyone else to say. And same with the LGBTQIA is unfortunately, you're always going to have disagreements. I would love for it to be 100% unity and stand together, and we have we follow A, B, C, D, E, but it's never going to work that way.
Yeah. It's definitely, yeah.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, it's understandable. There are so many different kinds of people within the community, not just the letters themselves, but even within the letters, there's subdivisions within that. And of course, with all those different people, there's going to come differing opinions and thoughts and feelings. And so that's definitely understandable. But like in the world we live in, perception is everything. It's like
100%. And I keep saying, I really wish, you can disagree, but right now, we can't disagree out loud. We need to be a united front. And it's not happening. I was going to say something. I forgot what I was going to say. That's the problem with ADHD, that I don't mean to interrupt people. I try to be very cognizant. I know what word I'm trying to say. I try to have good cognizance on what I'm doing and not interrupting others, but my stupid ADHD brain, if I don't say it immediately, and I'm like, and I forgot. I'll remember in a minute, but I forgot for now.
Right. I just wanted to ask something, it's not in relation to the topic at hand, but I do want to get your thoughts on this. You've heard of Mystique, right? From the X-Men?
Yes. Actually, one of my favorite characters.
Okay. Given the fact that Mystique has the ability to change into anybody, whether they're male or female, does that technically mean that Mystique is a trans woman?
No. So Mystique has always known herself as a woman. She's never in all the comics I've read, she's never given indication otherwise, but she has no issue using her power for infiltration. That I know of, she doesn't go on a regular basis. Well, and this is really problematic language, but I want to be a man for this week, so I'm just going to stay as a man. 99% of the time, whether she's in her natural form, when she's shapeshifted, she's still in the form of a woman. Once in a while, she takes the form of a man, but it's usually for infiltration. Yeah, she was Sherlock for a bit. She was also, what's the one that did the experiments on Wolverine?
Stryker.
She did him for like a Stryker.
Stryker.
Yeah, Stryker. She captured him and took his place for like 6 months, but that wasn't her gender changing. That was her doing what she needed to do. So, she was always a woman. I wouldn't even see her as like non-binary. She's never portrayed herself that way. Nothing like gender fluid. Unless the writers come out with something that I haven't read on Mystique, or there's something missing, she's always would be classified as having like the gender identity of woman, and she was born female, just blue and shape-changing abilities.
Yeah, I do understand that answer. It's definitely, the most thorough answer I've ever gotten on the question. It's just, when it comes to characters like that who have those abilities, it does give the writer this like leeway to come out and say like, well, actually, the entire time this character has really been, but when you look back at the work over the years, it's like, no, that's not the case, man. Like,
yeah, and that's actually a big problem that I have is some of the writers for these things come across as performative because there was no indication of this at all, and there was no hinting, there was no subtext, there was no nothing. I actually thought Iceman was performative for GAY individuals. Sorry, doing the TikTok thing. For gay individuals for a period of time. Because I didn't know much about Iceman. Then I went and actually read some of the older comics. There was always subtext of him being homosexual.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, this has always been there. Okay, this makes a whole lot more sense.
Yeah. Even in the movie, they kind of, I think it was X-Men 2, they kind of alluded to it when Bobby, Iceman came out to his parents that he was a mutant, and his mother's first question was, have you tried not being a mutant? It's just like, okay, we see what you're doing here. Like, it's that same old question of like, have you tried not being gay?
I mean, X-Men... technically, X-Men in general is an allegory for being homosexual, being this, being that. It was just an allegory for being a minority of some degree.
Though I absolutely cannot get behind. I mean, I see what Chris Claremont was trying to do when he announced that professorx and Magneto were MLK and malcolmx, but I cannot get behind the idea of Magneto and malcolmx being mirror images of each other. Just no, they're not remotely the same thing. And
maybe I'm missing something. I've heard this actually a lot. I would actually see it the other way around than the way it was stated. I forget which one they stated as which, but from what I know of history, I would have said it made more sense if they were opposite. But no, I always found it fascinating that, as far as I know in the comics, Magneto is very, very straight. But Magneto's character was always based off, as far as I know, was very based off GAY individuals, one, and two, all but one actor that's played Magneto were also gay. So I always found that fascinating.
Yeah. Plus, with that
also the fact that Magneto is one of 3 people in the world Rogue can touch, cheating, because Rogue is hot as hell.
Yeah, I guess it was kind of the writer's way to a bit do away with all those illusions that some people would have towards the character being gay. Like, oh, he's not gay. He's with this chick here. See, it's like, no, come on now.
The Wanda's kid, the psychic one, is another character that people were like, "Where did this come from? This is all woke now." I'm like, nah, go read on Wiccan. Wiccan has always been written this way.
Doesn't he get with what's his name, hulkling? I think. I'm not.
Yeah, he gets with the. I think it's a Skrull.
Yeah, he winds up marrying the Skull, the new Skull King, but technically they both become the Skull rulers, whatever.
Well, I was gonna say he was a prince at that point, but he didn't know he was Skrull, but he was his skin was green, so they called him Hulkling because he was strong and green. Yeah. There's a whole weird, convoluted story to that, but yeah.
They're off together now, ruling the Skrull him
together. Sorry, just thought I'd cut
fire together. There's a happy GAY couple.
If his mother, both Omega level broken. We are so far off. X-Men will always get me off topic. You talk about Monster Hunter, Final Fantasy 7 because the things if Sephiroth was a real person, the things I would let that individual do to me. Mega Man are like the X-Men comics. Yeah, I will go so far off topic.
I mean, it's still on topic.
What's that?
Where are all these gifts coming from? They've added so many gifts since I've been live. Thank you so much. Thank you. Can you double tap that screen? Why did you stop at 17K? Get to 20K, please.
What's that Amazon show with all the video games?
Secret Level?
No idea.
Secret Level, yeah. Did you wait? You haven't seen Secret Level?
No, I did watch that, and I only watched that because it previewed the Mega Man one, but I did watch most of the other ones.
Yeah, I watched them as they were first coming out, and then I took like a few week hiatus, and I came back. It's like, oh, there's more episodes. Mega Man. I wish they gave us like I like how they gave us like origin of Mega Man, but they didn't really show off what all else he could do, and I'm kind of looking forward to that.
See, the problem is they did that so goddamn well. I'm actually now pissed. Just give me a whole show. I don't care if it's X or the original. Just give me a show with Mega Man.
Yeah.
Better yet, give me a new game that is not garbage.
Agreed. Second that notion so hard.
Absolutely.
There are too many polls going on.
Well, I think it needs to be.
I'm not doing polls.
I think it needs to be said.
Rise putting up polls, which is fine. Did you? Oh no, that wasn't. Finally remembered what I was going to say. Don't ask me why it randomly came to my brain. What I was going to say is, unfortunately, no matter the community you're in, whether you're a majority or you're a minority, there are going to be usually a small subsect of your community that just completely disagree or will say what somebody else wants them to say due to the fact that they think it will take pressure off of that.
True.
Definitely.
Nagi, go get food.
I'm a roll out. Things have definitely got off topic in the best way. Everybody's smiling and things are positive and the live is going. But yeah, before I roll out, I think it needs to be said, thank you, Rai. Not just for being on this live, but, being on lives in general, making everyone's experience there easier and all that, shooing away the, what's a good word? I don't want to insult people, but like the bothersome individuals be spamming and stuff, she definitely does a good job with gifts and keeping the live safe for everyone involved. So, congratulations for her. And also, Demi, thanks for being here. Just being here in general and running this topic. Despite the fact that there's a bunch of people running this topic, it also helps to have, someone of the community with the life experience that you have running this topic with the same kind of people that Kaz would have on their live, up on the panel as well, and in the chat to make this space as welcoming as it is. Let me just say that.
Yeah, I mean, and again, nothing against other creators, but I also run my lives in a much different way than most creators, so it gives a environment that invokes more of a calm conversation. Doesn't always work, but that's my intention, is to actually get through to a conversation instead of just a bitching match.
Okay, thank you.
Anyway, have a good one. Thank you for coming up. Come back anytime.
Pleasant weekends upon you all.
To you too.
How do you spot the difference between acceptance and tolerance? Like, just in regards to, like, the people would, I don't know, like, for instance, if you were to come out to a friend or a friend group, like, how would you identify the difference between your friends accept you as who you are, or like your friends tolerate who you are? Like, how does one look out for the difference between acceptance and tolerance?
For me, it's always been mannerisms. I'm pretty decent at reading people, and it can be difficult for some individuals. I actually think this is a pretty damn good question. So for me, is like, yeah, you're fine, but if you ever bring up anything about your life, they get get upset. I would notice these things. Now, if you always talk about it, maybe it's just as irritating as you talking about video games. And they're not a video gamer. So you kind of have to read situations. Like, I had a friend that I thought completely accepted me for who I am. Come to find out, after probably about a year, it was just tolerance. It was an individual that was like, yeah, I really like gaming with you, but basically everything else about you, I'm just tolerating. That's just something I have to deal with. Other individuals will go out of their way to be like, hey, how was your day? How's everything going? They've know whether I've gone through something in my life, whether that be a new medication or something. Like, they actually show a genuine care. I would say that's where I see the difference between acceptance and tolerance, is you see a level of care in those that accept you, and you don't see that same care when somebody just tolerates you.
Yeah, it seems to be the case, because, that would be it, because, to truly accept somebody, like if someone opens up to you and says, like, hey, I'm actually LGBT, to accept that would be the difference. I view it as acceptance and tolerance. Like, if someone just tolerates that, they'll view it as, okay, as long as you don't bring it up, no problem. But, like, with regards to acceptance, it's a case of, okay, you bring up something that relates to, the gender you identify with or your sexuality, and it's like, it's not a bothersome issue. It's not like you would bring it up. Okay, you mentioned bring it up repeatedly. I can understand that. If it's something that comes up every time, it can be a bit annoying. But if it's something that comes up like once in a few months, and then you get this feeling of like, ugh, like, I don't want to hear that shit, then it's like, oh, this person does not accept me. This person is tolerating me. Like, this person abides my existence. It's very...
Yeah,
yeah.
I would say we're on a very similar wavelength with our understanding of the difference.
Right. But that feeling of, tolerance, like, some people are okay with being tolerated. Like, I don't think I could be. Like, just knowing that, oh, I am tolerated, I'm not accepted. It just feels like who a person is shouldn't be something that you have to put up with. It should be something you acknowledge and understand. But, like, once you get into that area of, oh, I'm just putting up with this aspect of this person so I can get to the part of them that I actually give a shit about, it's like, no. If you want someone in your life, you kind of have to want all of them, warts and all, as a way to, not even in just relationship-wise, but, like, friendship-wise too, that's just my view of things. Because if you say, I like this part about you, but this other thing, nah, I want nothing to do with that, it's like, do you even like this person? But yeah.
Yeah, no, I get that, and like, take the background, take the topic of LGBTQIA out of the equation. So my best friend is also my boyfriend. Like, most people know, I'm polyamorous. I have my husband, and I also have a boyfriend. My husband I've known since first grade. We've been friends and then partners since forever. Known each other forever. I know 100% that sometimes I irritate the living hell out of him, because I have ADHD and I have to finish a sentence, and if I'm really excited about something, I'm going to yammer on about it. But he knows that, and he accepts that, and he will still do his best to have a conversation, even when it's, for example, about an anime he could give two shits about. He will be like, yeah, I looked up this really cool thing. Did you know this happened in it? And I know he had to go Google it. He didn't watch the anime. I know 100%. But that's the difference, is that little bit of extra effort. Instead of brushing it off, instead of being like, can you just shut the fuck up? Is just putting that little extra effort to let me know that he does give a shit.
Yeah. At the end of the day, you know, that's ultimately, that feels great, you know, to know that this person in your life genuinely does care about you, or at the bare minimum does give a shit. Like, yeah, it feels so good to know that this person wants you around. You know, like, it leads credence to the idea that, you know, it's better to be wanted than needed.
Yeah, that's why I've always found it, and I don't want to really change into the topic, but you've seen a lot of people host the topic, I'm sure, of women don't need men or men don't need women.
I've been on a few of those topics, yeah.
Have you? What side are you on of it? Do you think women need men? I'm assuming not.
In terms of need is a strong word, because need is this thing that, oh well, if we didn't have this, we would perish. So there is no, I mean, I can...
Right, that's my core fundamental behind it. One of my base questions is always, why do you have to be needed instead of be wanted? Because I find it so much stronger when somebody truly just wants to be around you and they don't need you.
Yeah. The comparison would be like, if you were in a wheelchair and your apartment was like on the 5th floor, like, it's like, and you have someone who helps you get up the stairs and everything, they push you around, but you really don't like that guy. You need that person in your life, but it's like, you know, because you can't get around without them, but at the same time, it would be a lot better if you wanted them in your life. If they were a good person, they'd be like, you know what, even if I wasn't in this chair, I would like to have you around. Like, just, you know, it's better to be wanted than needed. Because at that stage, if you're just needed, your presence is tolerated. It's not, you know, it's not desired or accepted. You're just here because you have to be here. If it were up to me, you wouldn't be. That's how, you know, it just comes across when someone is needed as opposed to wanted. Now, it's not inherently a bad thing to be needed. For instance, a 2-month-old baby needs its mother. So, okay, that's a situation where one is needed, and if you weren't there, you would perish. So yeah, that's understandable. But like, after a certain point, like once you hit 18, the term need stops being a thing, and then if the relationship between the mother and the child is strong, then they become wanted. It's like, hey, I can take care of myself, I can look out for my own self-being, but I want you around regardless.
I don't think I needed. I needed but didn't need it, if this makes sense. Like, I don't know, 10 years old was when I was started to come to a grasp of this, not in the vernacular that I have now. But I didn't need my mother anymore. But I built a strong, like, there are things my mother has done that I thought would cause a rift that we would never fix. But we fixed them. And I truly want to be around my mother. Now, does she irritate the living hell out of me sometimes? Yes. And that's how I know I want to be near my mother, is because I could absolutely just not talk to her anymore. I have that option. But I go out of my way to make time to hang out with my mother, or go out to a dinner, or hell, we were talking about D&D. I grew up in D&D. My mother and father taught me to start playing when I was 7 years old, and I'm now my mother's DM. And we still play to this day.
Yeah, it helps to have that. I mean, it's a good thing to have. You have that bond with your mother in that way, and it lends credence to the point, no, it's better to be wanted than needed, because if it was solely about needs, then when you were like 13 or something, that relationship would have ceased then and there, because you said like when you were like,
it would have fallen.
Yeah, but because that want to have this person in your life was there, and that's what allowed that relationship to grow and become what it is today. You know, like it just and mentioned D&D, and there was this comment earlier about how like it was decried as satanic back in the day. Like that's just a common tactic that would happen whenever anything came along that didn't jive with the status quo or the already established order of things, or that seemed to go against like Christian values, it would be labeled satanic. It happened to rock music. It happened to film, television. It happened to several books from writers all across the world. Like it would just.
Like, I mean, just think of anything, and it was probably labeled as satanic if it wasn't what they wanted. Being left-handed was you were a demon or satanic or lesser. Playing D&D, that was satanic and witchcraft. That was pagan witchcraft. Rock music, absolutely. Moving your hips while singing, Elvis Presley. Like Elvis, don't get me wrong, love Elvis, but there's a lot of issues about Elvis, but Elvis was satanic for moving their hips.
Oh yeah, like the devil is out here trying to bring people to his side through the power of shucking and jiving, apparently.
Oh my god, I haven't heard terms like shucking and jiving. I think the last time I heard those was when I was watching the Grease movie.
Yeah, like
gotta do the hand jive, baby.
Good grief, Grease. I'll get back to Shuck and Jive, but did you ever hear that theory that Sandy, the whole movie happens the way it does because Sandy is actually, like, flatlined, and that's why they drive off into the sky at the end, because this whole movie is, like, some lucid dream she's having, like, as she fades out?
I was gonna say, the two big ones that went around for a while, I didn't know how, like, big they were, but they were in my circle. Is anytime we watched the Grease movie, it was either Sandy was tripping on something the entire time, or these were her final thoughts as she was passing away. I was like, so drugs or morbid? Y'all can we just have a nice ending to the movie? Why do y'all go in these directions?
Yeah, it happens a lot, especially with things that are cheery and upbeat. Like, you can't have a cheery and upbeat movie without a theory popping up that these people aren't actually alive. Like, just... but yeah, back to the shuck and jive of it all. Yeah, like you haven't heard it in a long time. Like, I heard it, like, during a discussion about Beetlejuice movie, the sequel that came out a while ago, in regards to, Soul Train, that Soul Train that came up. Wait, have you seen the movie, the second one?
So I've only seen the original Beetlejuice. I was gonna go to the movie theaters, but I got sick. I think I had the flu. So I haven't seen it, and then I haven't seen it come on any of my streaming services, which kind of annoys me, so...
Alright, that's alright, man. You don't have to have seen it, but, like, yeah, there's this scene, okay, to give some context, in the aftermath of the Wednesday Addams show, Tim Burton got a lot of flack for how from the lack of diversity in his movies, and for the fact that in the Wednesday show, all the black people were playing villains. Like, all the villains were played by people of color. He got flack for that. So, it just, like... And the flack got worse with Beetlejuice on account of that. There's a scene where they're in, like, the underworld, and this train comes to take them to the afterlife.
One sec.
Okay.
Give me 1 second. Mockingbird Lanes, thank you so much for the gummy bears. You finished out my daily goal. So my main gifters today were stay-at-home mom and Mockingbird. Thank you so much for the gifts. You didn't have to do that, but they're absolutely appreciated. Okay, please continue.
Someone here says DEI movies. I wouldn't... Yeah, Tim Burton, of all people, don't do that. This movie shows anything in Beetlejuice. So keep in mind, dude had been getting flack like, hey, how come there's no people of color in your movies? apparently he heard all that flack and he put them in this scene here because up comes this scene, this train that's going to take them to the underworld. The train is a pun because it's the soul train. And inside the soul train, I'll be goddamned. They asked why there are no people of color. Well, he put all the people of color in this soul train because in the back of the soul train was a bunch of 70s disco people with afros and like full-on disco outfits shucking and jiving in the back. Like, just...
Oh my god.
By the way, when they actually got to the underworld, all the white people got off and like went off to do their business, but then black people stayed in the back, just shucking and jiving back there. Just I was sitting there like, I know you did not just cram these black people onto the soul train and have them jiving in disco suits back here. Like, you did not, man. What the? But okay, that's fine at all. I'm just like, I was laughing. I was laughing so hard. I was laughing so hard I couldn't even get mad. I'm like, oh well, Tim Burton doesn't put any black people in his movies unless he needs somebody to shuck and jive, boy, yeah.
I don't know how to feel about that. Like, on one end, I want to be like, that was a poor play, and on the other end, I haven't seen what you're talking about, and it sounds funny.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those moments of, I don't know if that's racist or not. Like,
that's where my brain's stuck at, is I'm kind of stuck.
Yeah, those moments you just don't know how to react. I think the last time that happened to me was, this old white guy told me, like, yeah, he told me, you're a real credit to your race, son. And I'm sitting there like, thanks? Because I don't know if that's racist or not, but it didn't seem racist, but it just feels weird. Like, what's that supposed to be?
I don't know. I don't think I would take that comment very well. Yeah. Depending on who it came from.
Yeah, it definitely made me feel off, but like, yeah. It's one of those moments where you just don't know what to say. Like, your mind is just stuck. But yeah. Anywho, yeah, circling back to the thing about tolerance and just acceptance, given, it even ties back to the D&D thing about all, like, yes, there are still people who look down on it, but given how it's been well represented in film and in video games and its various board games and how it's ingratiated itself into pop culture because a lot of those people who were around when it was deemed satanic are grown up now and can like show it to a new generation of, hey, you see this thing that they tried to shut down way back when? You see it's actually not so bad. And that, you know, even ties in not just to D&D, but a lot of those other things that, you know, people, I don't want to just say Christian people because it's not just them. I mean, predominantly it would be, you know, people of their religion, but, you know, that was decried. Things that were decried as satanic aren't actually that bad. They're actually pretty good. They can bring people together. They can make people happy. They can, in your case, maintain relationships and add to them in ways that other things might not. So, yeah. It's this thing of like, in the past, this thing was looked down upon and demonized and treated negatively, and anyone who partook in it was, you know, looked at with disdain. But now, if you were to tell someone like, yeah, I played D&D, more often than not, you're likely to get a response of, oh, really? Me too? And, you know, acceptance.
No, yeah. Get it right. The correct response is, so how's the hardest boss? The scheduling. Hardest boss in D&D is not the task. It's scheduling time.
So if this was Stranger Things, you'd be Will, like trying to wrangle up everybody away from their girlfriends and shit. Be like, hey, you know, you said we were gonna meet up this time. Where are you? Like, just. But yeah. As always, it was definitely fun coming up here and informative as always been. So I'm gonna roll out now, and you be sure to enjoy the rest of the live. Keep on, you know, keep on keeping people informed out here. It's very good to have these kind of lives, and people can come on and just hash out if they have a real problem. They can state their problem, and people in the community can, clean it up and say like, okay, here's why that's not actually a problem, or here's where you're wrong in terms of your line of thinking, as opposed to the opposite. If this were inverted and like attack the point, not the person. That's the common thing I've noticed with lives like this, and if someone comes here with like a genuine issue that they have towards the community, it's okay, let's address that. Why do you think that way? What brought on this, line of inquiry from your end? But yeah, that's all I have to say on that.
Man on the Moon, just for TikTok purposes, can I get your age, please?
25, he, him. Am I coming through okay?
For like the 400th time I've gotten your age.
Yes, it was I think the funniest time I've been asked my age was, oh yeah, I think it was, you were there. It was on Kaiser's live stream. And then like at one random point, I said my age, and then Kaiser said, wait, I'm older than you? And
I remember that.
Yes. You would think the many times I've said my age would have stuck at some point, but like it really stuck in there like, hey, wait a minute. You're younger than I am, but everyone thinks you're so much older. I don't understand why that was, but that's just how it was.
Probably
Anyway.
your voice.
Yeah. But then again, me being younger, the lore between me and Kaiser doesn't make sense anymore, but that's its own thing.
Oh, wait a minute. Now I will get that lore later.
Yes.
So what questions can I answer for you?
I just wanted to ask, I mean, given everything that's going on with there being, I don't know if it's executive order or if it was just something you said that, let's call him Agent Orange, said he was going to pull trans people out of the military, and I got to wonder, as it relates to trans people in the military, like, is there, okay, before I get to like gender affirming care, I do wonder about the pronouns of it all. Like, when someone, since you're a former veteran and, wait, that doesn't sound right.
No, that sounds awful. Try again.
Yeah, no, let me rephrase that. Like, that doesn't sound, you were in the army.
Served 6 years.
Yes. And you are trans. So I wonder, when one is trans and they enter the army, what are the pronouns that the army uses? Is it a case of we use the pronouns you go by now, or is it a thing of like we see your records and whatnot and we go by that?
Alright, so this is going to be slightly different than you're expecting. Being trans in the military during my time of service didn't have the kind of rules that it does now. Don't ask, don't tell was still in play when I was in. So, like I said, I'm over 30 years old. I was in during a portion of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. So trans wasn't even really a topic. Now, to answer your question the way I understand it and from the research that I've done, the pronouns would be used for the individual's gender identity. Although there are beyond a bunch of stipulations of how you go through the proper channels for letting your chain of command know that you are are trans. This includes your senior supervisor, your first sergeant, and then I believe it's the command sergeant major. So you basically have to go all the way up the chain to start getting your paperwork changed. And then you have to show an insistence, persistence, and consistence for, I believe it's a year before you can start to move over to the other side. So you will probably be misgendered a whole fucking bunch during that process. Because I think it's the first year, it might be 2 years, but for the first year, if say you're a trans woman, you still do everything with the men until it moves on to the next step, and then it moves on to the next step, and then it moves on to the next step.
So if you like
Uh,
began the transition in like June, you wouldn't be allowed to shift over until June of the next year.
I believe that's the way it works. It's hard to find the fine lines now because they're trying to remove all that documentation. That's the last thing I remember reading. Like I said, I'm not 100% on it. There's actually a couple of veterans that are that I know, or a couple. Sorry, they're not veterans because they're still actively serving. A couple of trans military members that I wish were in my live right now because I would invite them up. They could give you a better understanding of it. To answer Crazy Bird's question, a portion would make you non-deployable, but it's not a permanent non-deployable. Trans individuals can deploy.
So for that year in which one is transitioning, you could pick up and deploy even amidst all that, if you were called to do so.
Yeah, so I believe the only non-deployable status you get is if you go through surgery, but that would be anyone that goes through surgery, and it's very hard for them to sign off on surgery, gender-affirming surgeries. I believe it's the first 6 months of your hormone regimen, due to the fact of the changes you're going to be going through once they put you on HRT. For the first 6 months, you get a temporary non-deployable status.
Okay. And you bring up HRT. I wanted to ask. I mean,
Melody, I was just looking for Kale in my list.
I think Kale their live got taken down earlier on today. I'm not sure if they appealed it and got it back yet.
Can somebody send it to Kale? They can either accept it or not accept it. I would just appreciate it. And then the other individual I don't talk to on a regular basis, but Andromeda. Can somebody send it to Andromeda? Because those are the only two individuals I can think of off the top of my head, although I do know more trans service members. I don't remember their usernames off the top of my head.
Yeah, I sent it to Kale and Andy.
I'm a furry as well. My fursona is a bat. Ooh, bat furries are cute.
Didn't want to cut you off. As I was saying, you brought up HRT. So, in regards to somebody, when you enlist in the army, is it a thing of like you mentioned that one can transition whilst within the army, and there is that period of a year. So when it comes to HRTs and all the necessary, you are supplied by the army. There is gender affirming care there for you within the army as it stands.
Within the current military, yes, there is gender affirming care, but they're going to have to go through their own rules and regulations to go through the gender affirming care because the military does everything their own way. So even if typically you would follow this time frame and guideline, if the military says it's slightly different, you're going to end up following the slightly different guideline because that's the rules of the military. By signing that piece of paper, you sign that you're going to follow their rules. So I know that they're trying to remove military service members. I know that I believe there's a lawsuit currently on it, and the Fox News host, because I refuse. They're not qualified for the position they have. So they brought a mountain of paperwork to show why trans people shouldn't be in the military, and right now they're being laughed at because it actually shows that trans service members are more likely to be better soldiers than individuals that aren't, because they're living their happiest life and they're receiving health care. So right now I honestly don't know the final answer because unfortunately, like, the courts are stacked. But right now, from the last thing I read, the judge laughed at them because the information they brought is actually for our side, not for their side. But with that said, I actually have a caveat of trans service members in the military, and this hurts a little bit to say, but I do think during wartime, you should not be able to get gender-affirming surgeries because I believe it would take you out of deployable status for too long a period of time. Your hormones, your therapy, absolutely fine, well and good. Now, if we are not in a wartime active deployment situation, i.e. wartime, then gender-affirming surgeries should be covered. That would be my stipulation on trans members serving in the military. But again, I'm not the medical professionals. I don't know the guidelines for every type of surgery. Like, there are trans service members that get a knee surgery or some other type of surgery. I don't know how long these put you onto non-deployable status, and if gender-affirming surgeries versus knee surgery is going to be roughly equivalent to the same length, then I might have to take my point back. But right now, that is my current argumentation.
So when one does get surgery when one does get surgery and they are non-deployable, it's a case of they stay on base to rest and recuperate, or they go home.
They would be on base. They'd be on most likely barracks rest.
Mm-hmm.
I can't see them giving them a level of leave just for recovery. It should be base barracks rest or home rest if there's someone that lives off post or on post housing.
Yeah, I mean they may not come back. Just
no. Let's not get into the AWOL thing. Oh man, that is a whole nother subject.
Okay. In the beginning, you mentioned don't ask, don't tell.
Give me 1 second. Cookie. For the most part, I agree with you. Although I did know plenty of NCOs that lived in barracks housing. They would live, in the barracks. They would live on a first floor in a single room. As an NCO that lived in the first floor in a single room, I can attest that there are NCOs that still do live in the barracks. Typically, they will live in on post or off post housing because they do have the option, but some of them rather just save money and live in the barracks. Anyway, please don't ask, don't tell.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned don't ask, don't tell. So, in regards to with don't ask, don't tell, that policy, from my understanding, was your sexuality or your gender or whatever, it was what it was. We didn't ask you and you didn't tell us and you just went about your business. That's my understanding from what it was. What happens when someone gets outed with that policy in effect?
So that is a whole can of worms. This policy was roughly put together. So that is a can of worms in itself. If you're bad at your job and you get outed, they would use that to boot you out of the military in a heartbeat. If you were good at your job, but the NCO was homophobic, they would boot you. If you were good at your job and your NCO didn't give two shits, they would just look the other way. I was outed like 3 times. One of the first things I bought when I went into the military, because I was finally on my own, was I bought this gorgeous red dress, these gorgeous heels, and I bought a nice blonde wig. And I went out to the local gay club of where I was stationed and got caught by an NCO. An NCO saw me out there. Why they were in that district, that's a whole nother question. But they saw me, absolutely knew it was me. Went to my commanding officer, told him about it. My commanding officer said, "Go back to work. Nobody's filing paperwork on you." Because I was goddamn good at my job. But then again, I served in the latter half of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. So it probably got more lenient over time. But for generations, even before Don't Ask, Don't Tell, the minute you were found out to be queer, you were gone. And it was a dishonorable discharge. Because how could queer people possibly do the same thing as straight people or cis people? This has always been their argumentation. Yeah, and that's the thing, Cookie, and Crazy. A lot of people in the comments are resonating with what I'm talking about. Is a lot of things in the military really do depend on who your leadership is. Sometimes you have leadership that is like chef's kiss, and sometimes you have leadership that is rip your hair out.
Yeah, I've heard a few stories from this dude. Who used to be in the army. Like it would depend. It mostly from his perspective, it was like who the drill sergeant was, in the case of whether or not things were good or things were bad or how lax they were with certain rules. But yeah, in regards to that, would you say the policy of don't ask, don't tell, like you just keep it to yourself and everybody goes about their way, given I know it does have some negative sides to it, like would you say there were any positives to it, like just everybody keeping who they were to themselves and just continuing with, being in the military and all that?
So I'm going to say no, and this might be a slightly biased opinion, but I will also tell you why I say no. Because this could only possibly, in my viewpoint, this could only possibly be a good thing for the homophobes. So those individuals that get to have their spouse or get to bring their go out with their partner or bring their partner around on post and in their off time and hold hands or do whatever. These are the ones that benefited. Anybody that was part of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, you couldn't have someone on post. You basically had to sneak around when you were off post and hope that you didn't accidentally run into a random NCO that hated the queer community. So it was only benefiting one side. That is not a net positive in any way. There is no equal ground in that. Don't Ask, Don't Tell was just for the peace of mind of homophobic assholes.
Yeah, I could.
For the most part, take Don't Ask, Don't Tell out of the situation. For the most part, LGBTQIA does try to go around minding their own business. It's not like I go around screaming from the rooftops, hey, I'm sapiopansexual, and I'm intersex, and I'm also a trans woman. Like, I don't go to the rooftops. The only reason I'm even on these lives is the amount of pushback my community is getting for, like, the 85th time. The only reason I come on these lives is to educate individuals in the hopes of changing one individual's mind from being a complete asshole that is ill-informed and refuses to learn anything.
Yeah.
Like, I would like to be playing Monster Hunter right now. And I do plan on going to play that in a little bit. But I was literally talking to Maki. I was like, I did not plan on doing a live today besides video gaming and just kind of chilling out. But I feel at my very core I have to do these lives because maybe I can reach one person that's willing to listen and have a conversation and maybe learn just one piece of information that goes, oh, I didn't really get that.
Yeah, it's an admirable thing to do, to open yourself up to people and be a source of information where people, for a subject that not a lot of people have valid sources of information from. But yeah, that's, it's certainly something, a positive way to be the change you want to see in the world. And yeah, that's That's about all I wanted to ask, so I'll be out. Oh, before I go, you wanted to ask me something?
If I did, I don't remember.
Oh.
You got lost in the conversations we were having?
I'm sorry, my memory is... I can remember facts, statistics, and I can still remember where every bush that you... God, this is going to sound funny, but every bush you light with a candle in the original Zelda. Can remember all that. But if you ask me to remember where I put my keys five seconds ago, I can't tell you. If you asked me for a question that I was going to ask you and we continued the conversation, that question is lost. Now, I will remember that question in 3 weeks at 2 a.m. in the morning when it's irrelevant.
The keys are on the coffee table, by the way.
I don't have a coffee table.
They're on the counter.
They're in my purse. That is the only reason I know where they are. But if I put them somewhere that's not my purse, they're gone.
You haven't seen the videos. Okay.
Oh, okay. I was going to say the last time I set my keys somewhere because I pulled them out of my purse, I set them somewhere. I made my husband go find them. I was like, I don't know what, they're somewhere in our room. Go find them.
No, there's videos on this app that I find really funny. The husband is asking the wife where his keys are. She's like, they're right there. They're on the coffee table. They're right there in front of you, or the counter. And the viewer and the husband can't see them. Then the wife comes in and literally grabs them out of thin air and says, here.
Oh, do you know how many times I ask my husband where my glasses are when I set them like this? I hate you.
Sorry.
My husband just ruined my entire lighting down here.
Oh, that's unfortunate. I do recall you said something about you wanted to ask me about like the lore. We were talking about like age, and I said like I was 25.
Oh, the Kaiser,
yes.
Kaiser lore.
Hi, losers.
Hi, Zev.
Where'd you get a mic from?
I've had a mic, but I even tried to mute the mic fast enough. Yeah, I need to ask Kaiser if I'm allowed to get the lore first. I don't want just the lore.
That's cool. Oh, by the way, thank you for the advice on that. Thank you. I sent that already. It was, what's this? Oh yeah, it was 3 pages long. I kind of, I really poured my heart and soul into that one. I don't have a lot of practice with regards to saying thank you to people, so it tends to just, I don't know if this happens to you, but like I tend to just start talking and then it just becomes like blah, 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 blah. And this whole thing of like, oh wow, I've been talking for a while, haven't I? But yeah.
Well, considering I'm an individual that will say I have to leave in 2 minutes, and then if somebody starts a conversation with me, it'll be 2 hours later before I get out, and then I'm driving home at 4 in the morning. Yes, I get that.
Yeah. All right. Well, y'all have a good live, and I was going to say something, but I've honestly forgot. I'll just say, y'all have a good day, and yeah, you, yeah, when you want to hear that lore, I'll be around. Just say the word, and I'll drop in. But yeah, bye, y'all.
Alrighty, thank you so much for coming by. It's always a pleasure to have conversations.
Thank you. Good to see you again.
You too. Bye.
Shadows lost in time, teenage heart and curse combined. Curse sword whispers truth and lies, fighting demons in disguise. Like fire in the night, half demon rage ready to ignite. World of chaos, dark and bleak, strength in shadows, power I seek. Swing that blade high, cursed and torn, born of darkness filled scorn. Fighting evil, this teach war to might power forevermore. Shadows lost and torn, born of darkness filled scorn. Fighting evil, this teach war to might power forevermore. Darkness burst cracking through the fight, sword and rage with deadly might. Through the abyss I carve a path, half demon fury, none escapes my wrath. Moonlit nights and endless screams, this cursed life, A1 it seems. Shadow hunter in the fray, fighting darkness every day. Swing that blade high, cursed and torn, born of darkness filled scorn. Fighting evil, this deeds war to mind power forevermore. Shadows lost and torn, born of darkness filled scorn. Fighting evil, this deeds war to mind power forevermore. Oysters. forevermore.